What am I saying? I'm saying saturate yourself with the Word. Saturate yourself with good teaching. Saturate yourself with the things God's doing. You know, one of the problems that we have as believers is sometimes we're so focused on what God's not doing that we're not seeing what He is doing. You got to focus on what God's doing. Because if you focus on what's going on, what you didn't see happen that you wanted to happen, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to spend all your time disappointed. Quick message, little short micro message. John the Baptist. Did John the Baptist not baptize Jesus? Didn't he? He did, didn't he? Just before he baptized Jesus, do you remember what he said? He said, "Behold the Lamb that takes away the sins of the world." Right? He knew who Jesus was. He was commissioned by God to be the one who led Jesus, or came before Jesus and prepared the way. John the Baptist didn't want to baptize him because he knew who he was. Remember the story? And then what did John the Baptist end up having happen to him? He what? He was beheaded ultimately. He got thrown in jail. And then ultimately he got beheaded. But before that happened, he was in jail and he sent his disciples. You remember this story? And he sent them to Jesus and he said, "Are you the one we're supposed to be looking for, or is there someone else?" You know what was going on with John? John knew that this was the coming Messiah who was supposed to set the captives free. And what was John? He was captive. Boy, isn't this good? The announcements are really good today. He was a captive, and he said, "Now, if you're the guy that's supposed to be coming, then you ought to be setting me free." And Jesus looked at his disciples and tell John what you see. The dead are raised, the blind eyes are open, the lame walk, the deaf hear. And so they went back and he looked at his disciples and he said, "Blessed is he who does not get offended in me." If you're paying attention to everything Jesus isn't doing, that you think Jesus ought to be doing, you're focused on the wrong thing. You need to focus on what Jesus is doing. You need to focus on what Jesus is doing, because if you focus on that other stuff, you're going to get offended. And if you get offended, you won't be any good for anything, because offense, if you find it in the Bible, a couple other places, you'll see that when Jesus couldn't do many miracles in his own hometown because they were offended at him, offense brings in unbelief. Ooh, that's good stuff today. All right, now I'm going back to announcements.